どうも、獅子王玄白と申します。As you can see, I'm back in my living room green screen, or just stock PNG footage because I am a PNG tuber right now. Anyways, in this video recording, I'm just gonna discuss about my viewing experience and my impression on the Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore movie. From Wikipedia, it says it's a 2022 fantasy film directed by David Yates from a screenplay by J.K. Rowling and Steve Kloves, sequel to Crimes of Grindelwald, the third installment in the Fantastic Beasts series, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's cut to the chase. This film, it's not bad. It's not as bad as IGN has rated it, but there are still flaws for the film. For example, it is very obvious you can tell which part of the story, which part of the movie is written by J.K. Rowling and which part is written by Steve Kloves. I mean, this movie, Steve Kloves was able to get the story back into one single direction instead of having too many branch out subplots. But because it's a Fantastic Beasts movie and J.K. Rowling still had major influence towards the script, there are still issues. There are still unresolved branch lines that you just want to, question why, how. There is less exposition when compared to Crimes of Grindelwald, but that being said, it's still pretty slow paced when we have it's not as bad as the 30-minute long exposition at the very end of the story, where we get to talk about who is Credence. We had a brief introduction on why the Chillins for. Now let's transition into the major criticism of the film. This film's major criticism in terms of story is the central plot of Grindelwald contesting as the security general of the magic world equivalent of the UN. So Grindelwald is trying to run as the supreme leader of the international wizarding community. And here's my take. We never really know when did Grindelwald expresses his intentions to run. We only know from the last movie that Grindelwald retreated to Nuremberg in his secret castle base, plotting his next move. But we do not know when did Grindelwald want to contest as the leader, nor do we know the motivations behind the two other candidates, with their names being Vincentia Santos from Brazil and Liu Dao from China. And because the story is set in 1930s, we can imply, if you know the basic history of 1930s, you can basically imply that Chen Dao is not going to become the leader, because if the Chillin's going to be the deciding vote on who's going to be the next leader every 4 years or every 6 years, I forgot how long, they didn't really talk about the rules of They didn't really talk about the rules of the election. And this is the problem, because even though we don't want too much exposition. You just drag in something very complicated, and that's not going to work. This is where we're talking about politics, international politics, and you gotta tell us how the international politics work, because it took more than 3 movies or 3 books to really establish how the Aurors and the British Magic Ministry worked in Harry Potter. You're not gonna do that just in 20 minutes, saying that, oh, here's an election, this is very important. You gotta tell us that the political background during the 1930s Wizarding World, and what is Grindelwald's significant impact towards to the election. Because we're getting a sense of that the production team behind the Crimes of Grindelwald and Secrets of Dumbledore, that they're trying to bring more adult-oriented topics into the film series. First, we have the humanitarian issues behind the circus where Credence and Nagini is located in the previous movie, and how the growing conflict between the Wizarding World with the Muggle world, even though it's not really well established, even with the prolonged exposition established in the previous film. In this film, it's politics. And politics being a very, very complicated matter that many people do not want to bring up. It's brought up because we need Grindelwald to be a significant villain that creates a significant impact or consequence should he gain what he desired. In this movie, it's that he wants to be the figurehead, the main supreme leader, so that he could issue a full-on declaration on the Muggle world by the wizarding community. But that is not very well established. We do not know what are the purposes of Chen Dao and Vincentia Santos running. What are their motives? What do they propose? All we know is that Grindelwald wants this, he proposes this, and he has a lot of backing by the lower classes of the Wizarding World. So much so that he is the outstanding populist candidate that parallels another European figure during the 1930s. And considering that for the majority of the time, Grindelwald is located in Germany, and he has infiltrated the German Ministry of Magic. Even so, he somewhat has soft power over the current international wizarding community leader. He's basically like the Chancellor, and imposing his overarching influence over the figurehead president. Sound very familiar? Yeah, very familiar. Because in this movie, when compared to the previous one, Grindelwald, portrayed by Mads Mikkelsen, is a gentle villain, a very popularist one. Still very schemy, but he doesn't look like he's a threat. He looks like a charismatic leader, very, very charming. Very much resembles the teenage Grindelwald, that handsome young fella that Dumbledore fell for. In the previous film, it just felt like he he's a mad scientist from a, whatchamacallit, the scientific issues or some mishaps happened during a scientific experiment that somewhat scarred him and rendered his face horrendous. Yeah, that dramatic change of the portrayal, the outfit, the look of Grindelwald. It's something that people also are like talking about, even though Matt Mikkelsen's portrayal of the villain Grindelwald, it's very compelling. I wouldn't say he's very he's not that close in terms of relatability, but he is an understandable villain with somewhat redeeming qualities when you compare him to an absolute terrorist and madman, Tom Riddle, Voldemort. And as the film suggests, the film's called Secrets of Dumbledore, and my issue is just, we started with Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. The film mainly is talking about we discover a previous unexplored wizarding community realm that wasn't really adapted nor elaborated in the books. And it did a very good job introducing more and more of the mythical beasts in the wizarding world. With that somewhat above average movie setting as the stepping stone, we expect that the sequels would be more about the beasts and Newt's adventure wandering around the world, even though he has been tasked by Albus Dumbledore to help complete his biddings. Regardless, like from the last film, Crimes of Grindelwald, and this film, The Secrets of Dumbledore, we're gradually shifting the main character status from Newt Scamander to Albus Dumbledore. Even when Dumbledore, because of his blood oath, that he couldn't really make a direct action in aggression against his former lover, Gellert Grindelwald. While Gellert Grindelwald is just out there killing people because the flawed point of J.K. Rowling's writing said that they couldn't really make an aggression move, a harmful aggression move against one another, but somehow Grindelwald isn't really affected with it. Maybe because he doesn't really have that pendant anymore. But, yeah. We only show the effect with Dumbledore being, his hand being suffocated, entangled with the blood oath. But we really never get to see Grindelwald's reaction when he attempted to kill Dumbledore when the blood oath is still intact. All we get in the very end of the film is that Dumbledore and Grindelwald, they clash, the blood oath is broken, and Dumbledore just said that he did it to protect, not to attack, to strike down people. While Gellert Grindelwald did what he did, his intention was to strike people down with malice. And another major plot point that I have to bring up is the Qilin. We start with kind of like a Bambi-esque with the Mama Qilin getting killed immediately after labor, and we thought that there's only one Qilin. To the hubris of Gellert Grindelwald, and also because of convenient writing, it ended up being there's two chillin babies, and it really sets the parallel between, even though it's kind of like a lazy writing, it sets a very good parallel between Albus Dumbledore and Gellert Grindelwald. Grindelwald manipulates how he frauds the election. He treats the children as his tool rather than his equal or even superior, because in order to have the children to decide who's the rightful leader, the children has to be at a very high pedestal in terms of status, above the strongest wizard or witch ever. But Grindelwald, being the baddie, he just had to do the crimes against humanity and animal rights. He kills the baby children by slitting its throat. Well, Albus Dumbledore's campaign, they kind of they have the children as kind of like the important tool, like the key of who's gonna carry the key towards blasting the nuke against our enemies. And they treat it as a very important asset, even though that there are dire consequences. At least that's what they want us to believe, that should the children fall, everything crumbles. Everything we know about the Wizarding World, everything we know about Harry Potter crumbles. But because this film series is supposed to fill up the gap, the unanswered questions of what Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows had brought up, it didn't really do a good job, because we already know the outcome, the result. By having some filler within, we're just digging more holes to fill up previous problems. And we learned that Gellert Grindelwald, former lover of Albus Dumbledore. Gellert Grindelwald is the contrast, the foil of Albus Dumbledore. But even with that being said, Albus Dumbledore is still keeping some secrets against us, which is why the Secrets of Dumbledore isn't really a compelling title, because even though we know a lot about Dumbledore's past, well, through dialogue between Dumbledore and Newt, and Dumbledore and his brother Aberforth, we still have a lot of questions. Furthermore, we finally know the status, the role of Credus Barebone, now known as Aurelius Dumbledore. Yes, he's a Dumbledore. Yes, he's related to Albus, but no, he's not a brother. He's a nephew. And we also know that Ariana, is that her name? Ariana Dumbledore is a obscurus, just like Credence was. Yeah, okay. My bad. Ariana was a obscurus. Credence is an obscurus who's at the brink of death. But Credence doesn't really have a lot of screen time. Even though we keep on receiving messages from Aberforth's mirror, which is Credence's pleas of help, we didn't really know why he does that. It didn't really imply too much about Credence Barebone, nor do we just understand how or why Credence had chose to turn against Gellert Grindelwald at the very last moment. We also didn't really understand what the plan was behind Yusuf Kama. Yusuf Kama is the French Senegalese wizard from the last movie, and he had a very character change. He felt like how should I say this? It felt like when Lita Lestrange was killed by Gellert Grindelwald in the last movie, he felt like he's hollow. He's like a walking corpse, losing purpose. And we didn't really know why he was chosen to fit the role as the one who infiltrates within Gellert Grindelwald's ranks and have parts of his memories removed. Why there weren't more challenges for Yusuf Kamal for his character arc, or why his motives or his character behavior. He's very static. He remains the same, and he talks in a very monotone French-esque accent. So that's another problem within the movie. But by far the most character we get is the no-match Muggle veteran of First World War, Jacob Kowalski, and his relationship with Queenie Goldstein. Even though we gotta say, Queenie Goldstein and Jacob Kowalski's story arc is very interesting and is the most dynamic of all the characters within this movie. And it also serves as a parallel between the dead relationship between Albus Dumbledore and Gellert Grindelwald. I just have to say that Queenie is a cheap version of Severus Snape, and they're trying to replicate Severus Snape's character dilemma and story. And even though the interaction between Jacob Kowalski and Queenie Goldstein is the best, their story arc is the best in the movie, she felt like a cheap copy to Severus Snape, an inferior copy, in fact. And I just don't know why they couldn't have her stand out even more. And she's definitely not as charismatic as Snape, nor do we see her conflict that much. We only see that at the very end, and even so, even though it's the most established subplot within all the subplots of this movie, they didn't really explain a lot, and a lot of them is just lazy writing. But Jacob Kowalski is by far the best character within the movie because he gets the most character development. We see his conflict the most. He's the type of guy that we want to see in terms of Harry Potter movies. He's the hero that resembles from the Harry Potter movie, in spite of not having the power. But now he has a wand, so I don't know. But yeah, that's all I have to say, all I have to critique, and my overall impressions on the film. It's the film did really great because I don't know, like people thought that it's gonna bomb, and people thought that it's not gonna be great after what IGN had revealed their verdict 2 weeks before the movie aired. And probably because we're expecting it to be disappointing, the result is just, this is a good movie, not as bad as they say, but there are still flaws, and we can work with that. It's a significant improvement from The Crimes of Grindelwald, and I gotta say, my verdict for this movie would be higher than IGN's. My verdict is a 6.9 out of 10 in terms of everything added together, the strengths, the weaknesses, what I don't understand, what I find is interesting, everything added together, 6.9 out of 10. Way higher than IGN's verdict, but it's not as bad as they say. That's all I'm gonna disclose. And if you like this video, please sure to like and leave a comment below. If you're still interested in the movie and you want to see for yourself that this film is not as bad as IGN said, even better than what I have said, or I'm talking loads of crap and IGN is not giving them harsh enough scores, feel free to go and watch the movie and we can discuss it. That's all for the video recording. My name is Shishio Genhaku, and Genhaku off.